I thank Deputies O'Brien and Conway Walsh for using their private members' time to bring forward this bill. Can I most importantly commend and congratulate the USI for what is already looking like a successful campaign of people power, and I think we should say that. Through their campaigning on this issue, it would now appear that they have forced the government to respond, somewhat belatedly in my opinion, to an issue that has been raised pretty much from the outset of the COVID pandemic, and indeed the issue of the lack of proper rights for student tenants predates COVID, but has been particularly highlighted during the COVID crisis, and it is an absolute minimum requirement to support our students that they should be extended the same rights as any other renter or tenant, although we should say that the rights for renters and tenants who aren't students are also completely inadequate, but at a very minimum, the idea that they shouldn't have to pay more than a month in advance, 1 month's deposit, and that they should be able to get refunds where they aren't able to take up accommodation because of COVID-19. But I think the fact that the government are allowing this to progress to the next stage, and the fact that they are also talking about a bill of their own to cover the same issues, is a victory for people power, and I would just hope that students understand that it's campaigning and people power by students that forces the change, and they deserve the biggest credit. But I also want to say that this bill just touches on one of the huge number of barriers, and I would say actual barriers that are being erected. It's not just that they're not being dismantled, barriers that in many ways are being continuously erected against students, and particularly against working class students and people from lower incomes, to be able to access third level, higher and further education, and indeed postgraduate education. I mean, the students are caught up, first of all, in the disaster of the housing crisis, absolutely extortionate rents, a situation being exploited by investment funds with shockingly extortionate so-called purpose-built student accommodation, by universities themselves that are increasingly acting more like big business than places of education there to support students actually getting through their education and fulfilling their educational potential. It's absolutely unacceptable, and what we need is actually to control the price of student accommodation. We need purpose-built public student accommodation with actually affordable rents, so that students can afford to study in comfort and not be put under massive financial pressure, them and their families, a pressure that's added to by the absolute disgrace of the student contribution fee, one of the highest in Europe, and then the total inadequacy of grants that students, those who can get grants, in terms of finding their way through accommodation. And something that I've highlighted recently, I just want to use this opportunity to raise again, because another, if you like, aspect of the story emerged this week, and this is just one instance in terms of postgraduate education of psychologists, the huge fees they face, 7,000 to 15,000 euro, having to work for free on placement, and then somehow expected to, how can they pay the rents? How are they supposed to pay these rents? But to add insult to injury, this week the HSE advertised assistant psychology posts with a full range of duties, 20 hours a week, for people who are mostly people trying to get onto doctorates of psychology, where they would work for free for the HSE, for nothing, with clients, dealing with GPs, writing reviews, dealing with the literature and so on, doing all the work of psychologists, working for free. How are they supposed to pay their rent? Absolutely unbelievable. The head of the HSE getting, what, 400,000? The Department of Health being talked about a massive pay increase, and we have student psychologists being asked to work for free for the HSE. It's unbelievable.
Paul Murphy, thank you.